was so nice when I put up a video on this book to find that I wasn't the only one who loved it and treasured it and kept hold of it for all these years. Dennis Gifford sure was an impactful presence when you're a certain age, being influenced by things for the first time. And yeah, he did a number of books. I've featured a few of them already, but he wasn't the only author. He gets the most mentions, but there are others, and I think it's time we looked at another one. So away with Dennis, and let's bring in Alan Frank. Now, back then in the 70s, you had Dennis uh, published by Hamlin, but oh, Alan Frank here, his were published by Octopus, and they were a publishing company that had, yeah, books devoted to genre films. And this is one, Monsters and Vampires, and I've had it since then. You can tell it's been well thumbed. All right. And so I thought we'll have a flick through this one today. All right. So there's old Chris. Now this was, back in the day, it cost me £2.95. And yeah, it's the movie treasury of Monsters and Vampires. I guess dinosaurs could fall under monsters. Of course, is Valley of Gwangi. Brilliant Ray Harryhausen work. Just curious to see when this book was done. Yeah, we'll come along to that in a minute and I'll explain why. Okay, this is first published 1976, Octopus Books Limited. I'm guessing, I'm pretty darn sure this wasn't a charity shop buy or anything. I've had this since then. So if you say, you know, I got it in 76, 77, then yeah, I was 14 or 15 and just getting into all the horror films, just about reaching the age where I was allowed to stay up to watch them on a Saturday night. And yeah, just like I said with the Dennis books, there's images in this book that I found fascinating, and there's things in this book that I still have yet to see. All right, so I mean that's a good point. But I've never seen Doom Watch. This is Doom Watch. And down here, this was always a clever idea in these books. They would group photos together thematically. All right, so this is Hammer's Dracula, and this is Hammer's Old Dark House, and you've got old Joyce being staked with knitting needles, but we have a stake there, right? So yeah, but it's such a long time ago now. I don't know if this was my very first uh, exposure to Nosferatu. Yeah, and there was strange images in this, you know. Right, Dracula's born, Bela Lugosi. So there's a whole thing about Bela Lugosi and the Bela Lugosi Dracula films to begin with. Oh dear Lord. And then going through to the end of his career. Lovely photos though. These are really quite good. And then of course, yeah, if you're talking about Bella's Dracula, you've got to then go on to Chris's Dracula and Chris's work. So, and again, like all these books, it's a mix of black and white, and then every so often you'll have, you know, 2 to 4 glossy pages. Just going to flick through it, and I'll point out, like I've done before, images that, like that one, when you're like 14, thinking, "What the heck is this?" You know. Apparently, that's John Beale in The Vampire from 1957. Never seen it. Curious little photos. Let's go through. Yeah, look. Yeah, I remember that one. I hadn't seen it, but yeah, Peter Cushing holding up a severed head. So yeah, oh Udo Kier there. Always wanted to know what was going on in that photo. There he is again. So it's a wide ranging uh, collection of monsters and vampires. Back to colour again. David Niven and Linda Hayden. Yeah, that glossy gore for me, so I'm going to study that. Yeah, didn't even know what Young Frankenstein was back then. And yeah, this is definitely when I first became aware of the Golem, or Der Golem. That's a great photo. Really good reproduction of the photos in these as well. I'm waiting for an image to jump out at me. I found that werewolf kind of odd. Yeah, and those teeth distinctly odd. Let's see what we got. Yeah, Tom Baker in The Mutations. Done this not too long ago on Effectively Speaking. It was a very hard film to finally track down and watch. And yeah, the film doesn't live up to the black and white photos, unfortunately. Young Frankenstein did. Yeah, another curious one. Can't see the joint at all there, can you? Yeah, Udo minus his hand. Strange one. Yeah, Tim's face there always found a bit peculiar. I didn't have a clue. I mean, I was reading all this, and again, I've never gone back and reread. Yeah, those teeth were rather startling. I've never gone back and reread the text. Maybe I should. There's some great ones. Um, and just see how dated the views are now. Yeah, you got Hammer every so often. Oh, that image from the Creeping Flesh. Remember that one? Yeah, The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. This I found this fascinating. What on earth is happening? You know, I'd known about King Kong at that point because we had the remake in '76, um, but that was an oddity for me. What else we got? Yep, the Ghoul. Okay. Um, no, it's it, isn't it? Sorry, the Ghoul. That's it. Another now obscure film, at least here in the UK. It's difficult to track that down. And again, it's one I did a while back for Effectively Speaking. I remember watching that, but that was later on in the 80s, watching it late night on BBC One. Um, really good film, that. Should get a Blu-ray release over here. Yeah, into the fantasy here. Abominable Doctor vibes. That's the Ghoul. That's the Ghoul, isn't it? Yeah, that's a Tyburn film that is just so much like a Hammer film. It's untrue. It's Don Henderson, isn't it? I think that's his film debut. And yeah, uh, monsters and vampires. But we get Flash Gordon, we get the Thing, we get invaders from Mars. Um, Science fiction monsters, I suppose. Yeah, these were great stills that I studied and studied. Some of them, when you finally get to see them, live up to the photo. Some of them, not so much. I think we're nearly at the end now. Yep, this is pretty current for the time of publication. Yeah, Telly Savalas is bleeding at the eyes. That's Horror Express. Yeah, that's a lovely image. Made me want to see it. And then I saw it and it's like, oof, oof. Um, it's odd though that I know there's no monsters and vampires in 2001. So I don't really know why it's included in here, but they could have honoured it with a colour. still, not black and white. And that's it. That's it. That's the end. So yeah, another. Oh, yeah, look at that for a back cover. I mean, can you imagine going into your newsagents now and getting that? So yeah, this is another book that had an awful lot of interest to me. Not massively impactful like the Dennis books, but it was topping up and continuing my fascination with horror and fantasy. And for that reason, I've kept it all this time, and for that reason, I showed it off today.